Weapon refining in Fire Emblem Engage is confusing and scary. It doesn't come cheap, and the looming fear that you're wasting your limited resources on a weapon you might not even use in 2 chapters makes the decision to commit especially difficult. So in this guide, I'll be telling you the best weapons to refine before you enter Chapter 10, refines that will make the most of your resources and will carry you all the way to endgame, as well as the best emblem engravings to pair with those investments. So why is this guide focused on investing before Chapter 10? Well,
spoiler warning, skip to this timestamp to not spoil the emotional pilgrimage that is Fire Emblem Engage.
By entering Chapter 10, you lose your ability to engrave with the emblems you've collected up until that point for a large duration of the game. Some engravings you lose for more than 12 whole chapters, and that's not including paralogs and skirmishes. You can only use an engrave on one weapon at a time, and if you overwrite or remove the engraves after Chapter 10, you lose them permanently. That's why you want your engravings on weapons that are worth keeping, refining, and contributing to your army, so you never have to regret your decision. But how do you even get materials for refines? Donating is a contentious topic at the moment, but getting those multipliers for post-battle materials is undeniably good. It's just a matter of how far do you want to go and how broke do you want to be. Level 5 is never worth it, and definitely not on maddening. Don't be persuaded by the reward packages. You should be donating just for the refined multiplier. If you don't want to break the bank, just go to level 2 on Farinay and level 3 on Brodia. For making this guide, I skipped Farinay entirely and went level 4 on Brodia, and that worked very well for me personally. Another thing you should do is adopt dogs. Between battles, every dog you place in your stable will generate ingots needed for refines, as well as sweet dog milk. The shop where you can exchange materials, refine weapons, and apply engraves will be available after Chapter 5. You'll probably notice Bane and Slayer weapons get both a might and hit bonus from the first refine. Refining these weapons just once is a good idea. Effective weaponry isn't game-changing, but it's cheap to do. Because you'd only use these weapons against an enemy's weakness, you're essentially getting 3 might for every refine, which is something to consider. But let's get into the weapons you should commit to. The first recommendation for me is Alir's personal sword, the Liberation. Admittedly, for a lord's personal weapon, it's very underwhelming. It starts out as basically a slightly lighter, more powerful iron sword. However, there are a few reasons why feeding it refines early is one of the best commitments you can make. First, it's one of the cheapest refines to +5, which will double its might, add 15 hit, and even 5 crit. And while you'll still want to supplant Alir's damage output with something a little higher might late game, this sword will still have tons of utility throughout the entire campaign. The ability to fill the engage meter an extra tick with a kill is very handy, as well as its low weight relative to might, which will help Alir double on player phase and dodge on enemy phase more often. I recommend pairing with Marth's beginning engrave, as it will further enhance all the bonuses from this refinement. Next is the Longbow. Flyers are very scary. Having a 3-ranged refined flyer pick in your back pocket will save your ass over and over again. It's a very expensive refine for early game, so I recommend not going above +1 at first. But with that one refine, you're getting both 5% hit and 3 points of effective might against flyers on a weapon that I guarantee you will still be using on the final chapters. Longbow's utility goes further than simply killing and chipping things at a safe distance. It's also a C-rank bow, so it can be equipped on warriors despite their low bow rank. I recommend pairing with Leaf's genealogy engraving. Doing so will mitigate the longbow's middling hit by 20%, making it a tool that will always hit it on the mark. Next is the Thunder Tome. Magic is king in this game. Magic is what melts through HP sponges, and ironically is more effective than most effective weaponry. Like the Longbow, Thunder is a 3-range weapon that is invaluable for providing big damage at a safe distance, opening up more space for your 2-range and 1-range units to contribute to a battle when things get tight. Thunder +5 is a tool you'll be using for most of the game, due to its bigger brothers Elthunder and Thoron being inhibitively expensive to refine. And if you followed my Bond Ring guide, you should have access to an ability that turns Thunder into a brave weapon, and thus the biggest damage output in your entire arsenal. Because Thunder can't follow up and you should be using it at a safe distance, I recommend Roy's Blazing Engrave, which increases the might by 2 at the cost of a void and weight. The Levin Sword. Now this was originally not going to be part of this video, but as of recently, the game got an update patch that throws a complete set of steel weapons and materials at you when you return to Somniel after Chapter 5. Yes, even for players who didn't buy the DLC and didn't turn online features on, you still get this package. It's just part of the game now, I guess. This is good because it means that you can get one of the best weapons in the game 6 chapters early. The Levin Sword hits hard. Think of it as a slightly weaker Bolganone tome, but it has all the benefits of being a sword, meaning you can break with it. You can pair it up with sword-based skills. It's C rank, so any hybrid class can use it. It's the only way for early game sword lock backup units like Lapis or Diamant to 2-range chain attack. If you're not seeing the hype about Sigurd's override ability, try this with Saline and watch that Mystic boost do all the work for you. When you unlock the Refine vendor, you probably won't have enough materials to forge your steel sword into the Levin Sword. So preemptively hit your steel sword with the Sigurd Holy Engrave. That way you can make use of it in Chapter 6. Then when you have enough materials to forge into the Levin Sword, do it, and refine to your heart's content. And yes, when you forge weapons into higher weapon ranks, you do keep the engrave. So keep that in mind for the next weapon suggestion. Iron Dagger. Daggers are so good in this game. Iron Dagger is light, it's 1 to 2 range, it inflicts stackable poison status, it has the same might as an iron sword, and every refined on daggers increases their might by 2. I don't know why they made them like this, but I'm not really complaining. Thieves are one of the most effective bottlenecking and mob control tools you have in the first half of the game, and their terrain modifiers make them the king of enemy phase, even after you sober up and realize that armors still aren't that good. It doesn't even matter that the AI will ignore you if your avoid is too high. Having the ability to plug up a flank so you can consolidate your efforts elsewhere is wonderful. If you're not deploying at least 1 dagger unit, you're probably making the game harder for yourself. And refining will mitigate one of their biggest weaknesses, damage output. If you have enough disposable income and you want to go full Haya Papaya on them hoes, I recommend biting the bullet and forging the iron dagger into a steel dagger, since you won't be getting one otherwise before Chapter 10. A steel dagger at base is not going to be better than an iron dagger +2, but if you have the resources and you want to take the plunge early, that steel dagger with refines will be an investment that will pay off hard in Chapter 10, and it will continue to serve you for the majority of the game. I recommend pairing with Micaiah's Dawn Engrave. It will help you dodge tank reliably, even off avoid tiles. You might have noticed one more engrave I haven't discussed yet, Celica's Echo Engrave. If you really want to make the most of this unique bonus, the best thing you can do is subscribe.